You can hear us, Dan? Hello?
Yes, I can hear you. Yes.
That's good. That's good.
You can.
And you can see it.
Hi.
I'm also here.
Good evening. Hi. Hi. Good to see you, George.
That's good. So then we're good. We'll be back when we're starting.
You can see my screen.
Yes.
You can see.
Yes.
And I've given you already the pass for your slides, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I can share screen from here. That's good.
Okay.
Perfect. We'll join back. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. See you. So good evening, everyone. We are starting another 3 minutes. So good evening, everyone, and welcome each one of you from all over the world. A lot of people have joined us from various countries, and also all of you from India. Thank you very much for joining in. I'm sure we will have a very interesting discussion for the next 60 minutes. So on behalf of Indian Institute of Spirituality for Social Work and Helping Professions, we welcome each one of you to this international webinar on sustainable NGOs, how our beliefs influence our financial decision making. We thought this could be the right time for this webinar when COVID has impacted our lives in many different ways, especially the social sector. And it's time to rethink our strategies and actions for continuing our work for the fulfillment of upliftment of the society. The webinar could be an eye-opener for all of us on how our own belief systems could sometimes stall our progress in life and also at work. So today we have with us Nina George, and Joachim Luthswamy from SAVE Foundation, who have been kind enough to address all of us today. Joachim Luthswamy is the director of SAVE Foundation, a non-profit based out of Belgium. He has worked in the field of international development aid for more than 25 years. He has managed an annual budget of 9 million euros. He holds an MBA in international business and is a certified project management professional by PMI, and also holds Masters in Philosophy from India and Religious Studies from Belgium. Joachim has a rich experience, has managed more than 150 development projects in India alone. He also has experience in leading projects in Africa and other countries in Asia. For over 20 years, he was on the selection committee for projects and programs in Asia, Africa, and South America. He has also served on the jury of the Belgian energy company Luminous for the selection of CSR projects. We have also Nina with us, experienced in both the development sector as well as the corporate sector. In her past position as engagement manager at the consulting firm based in Belgium, she led high-profile international projects that spanned from east coast of the United States to Singapore. Her clients include billion-dollar companies like AB InBev, Celesio, Honda, Medicorp, among others. She specializes in strategic marketing and has worked extensively with predictive analytics. She'd advised clients on how to tap the market potential effectively to increase their revenues. Nina now focuses her time and energy on helping NGOs to attain their financial independence. She also holds an MBA in international business and is certified project management professional. So welcome to both of you, Nina and Joachim. And I would like to also welcome my associates, Madras School of Social Work, Sacred Heart College, Faculty of Social Work, MS University, Baroda, and Northeast Institute for Social Science and Research Projects. One word that I would like to begin with is what Edward Kanda said last time in our webinar. Spirituality is at the heart of helping. And you may wonder why we have brought this subject. Spirituality is closely linked to our belief systems and how they impact our decision making. So we have a program starting in another 2 minutes time. Feedback form will be available on chat box 10 minutes before the closure, and it will close 10 minutes after. And we would be sending certificates to everyone who fills the feedback form. After 10 minutes of closure, the feedback form will not be available even on request. And certificates will be sent within 15 days of the webinar. Kindly note. Thanks for joining. And we have been holding several webinars, very interesting ones, for bringing about awareness about spirituality in social work and in helping professions. We are an organization based out of Bangalore in India, promoting spiritually inspired work. Our next webinar is on 3rd week of November. Please stay tuned and enjoy learning. Enjoy the day. And over to Nina and George.
Hi, Stan.
Hi.
Thank you for the nice intro. I'm just gonna check Can you see us?
Yeah, yes, absolutely.
Okay. And if I share my screen, do all of you get to see it?
It's blank now.
Do you?
It's a blank screen.
Matt.
Okay, I'm gonna try again. Still a blank screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And do you see it now?
No, not yet.
We see the mouse cursor.
At least something is visible. That's good. Let me see again. Okay. So you can see my mouse, then you should be able to. Okay.
Yes, now we can see it.
Do you see it full screen or do you see it?
Full screen, full screen.
Okay,
Yes.
that's good. So I'm guessing some of you are not muted. You might want to mute yourself so that we don't have an echo, but that's great. Okay, so all of you see, let me know if there's any technical problem over there. So thank you once again, Stan, for the wonderful welcome. And it's nice to know that people across the world have joined us, also from Africa, Europe, and of course, from Asia, primarily from India as well. A warm welcome to all of you once again. As Stan mentioned, these are difficult times, challenging times, and we are all looking for ways to survive and do our work as well. And NGOs are just as much impacted by the crisis. Today's webinar, we're going to focus much more on how our belief systems have an impact. So for the agenda, we're going to look at how we understand belief. It's a very broad definition. More important, because we're focused on the social sector, we'll look at how does this really work in the social sector? Does it have an impact, or it's just the other sectors? And then, of course, once we see if there is an impact or not, then we need to know what is the way forward. Now we're going to have a couple of short quizzes. So the first quiz is, how many of you will recognize these companies? And I'm guessing some of you nodding to say, I don't know these companies. Well, they all three are American companies. Yeah. Bethlehem Steel is actually, Bethlehem Steel is actually the steel producing and shipbuilding. It's the world's largest. You might have heard of JP Morgan and Carnegie, but I don't know if you remember US Steel. And then RCA is nothing but the Radio Corporation of America, which was once upon a time, which is just about 50 years ago, the largest electronics and communications firm. But you see, 50 years ago, these were giants. And today they're either bankrupt, disappeared, or they're shrunk, or someone has bought them. So second set of questions would be to see, do you recognize these companies? Yeah. And you will find here, these are, I don't need a subtitle explaining which companies these are. All of us know. So the question here is, what happened to those companies that disappeared, that were big giants 50 years ago, but now don't exist? Can I just stop to say someone's mic gives a lot of background noise. Could you kindly mute yourself? Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, you need to unmute yourself. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Now you can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna do the screen share again. And let's come back here. Okay, are we back on?
Yeah.
Good. So the question here is 50 years ago, the companies that were giants, why did they disappear? And now we have companies that are totally new or evolved from the last months. But 50 years from now, there is no guarantee that these companies will be prominent as well. Probably if we asked our grandchildren, do you know these companies? They probably might just shake their head and say no. So this is what the great economist Schumpeter calls the cycle of creative destruction. That is, life evolves, market conditions evolves, there are crises, there are the boom times, but companies find a way of surviving, or those who cannot survive disappear. Now, this is the same scenario that also exists for social sector. It's been kind of very cushioned, but now times are changing. Now, companies have in the basic DNA the will to survive. If they don't survive, they don't exist. So it's a question of survival of the fittest. Their value system, their belief system is driven towards come what may. I need profits and I need to be successful. I have to grow, I have to diversify, and I have to be out there. Now, for example, today we have this webinar through Zoom. 1 year ago, if I asked you, have you heard of Zoom? You'll say, I don't know. Skype? Yeah, I know Skype. So when this crisis of COVID happened, then the question is, if you ask Zoom, was that good for you? They'll say, sure. But many other businesses, it wasn't necessarily good. So those who can adapt and those who can be flexible are the ones who survive. And that's very often motivated by their belief. Now, how do you define belief? Of course, it's more an opinion, it's a conviction. When we say belief, we normally refer to the religious part, but it's actually a social, cultural, it's a lot more. It's not very much limited to that, but it is a predominant one. Now, if you say, and same belief can have different interpretations in different ways. So, for example, take number 13. We would say, oh, bad number, unlucky. There are some hotels I have seen, they have the 12th floor and the 14th floor. They don't have a 13th floor in between. I think no guest will want to stay there. But there are some countries, in some places, where 13 is considered as a lucky number. So the same thing can have different interpretations. And as regards when it comes to the belief system and how it impacts the corporates, there are a number of studies done, and I just want to point out one here, 457. That's a huge number of CEOs. And you will know that CEOs are very much responsible for the success, the profitability, the survival of the company, and they are accountable to their shareholders. Not necessarily even if they're listed or not, they would have people who have invested money in them. So individuals make that decision for corporates. How are they influenced? So here they did a study of people who were CEOs from 1992 to 2010. So that's quite a large period. American companies primarily. And they focused on certain aspects. So capital structures, more like investing in the stock exchange, those kind of things. Of course, it did happen that it was many are Christians. There was a big division there as well. So you see a lot of Catholics, a lot of Protestant CEOs as well. And one of the interesting finds that I wanted to highlight here was, you see, those CEOs that were Catholic, they did have their own belief system that said, these are things I would invest in, these are things I would not do, this is the diversification I'm okay with. So the business decisions are influenced by people. And it could impact their profitability. But yeah, to what extent, and it's a conscious decision that they make. So what you see here is that, okay, belief systems does impact the financial decisions that we take in the corporate world. But of course, the question is, how does it work in social sector? So for that, I have Joachim with us to explain.
Thank you, Nina. Hi there. Long time ago, social work was all about compassion. Being compassionate to others, compassionate to those who need, being charitable. And today, this social work has developed into a discipline. You can get a degree, master's degree, and PhD degree on this subject. So the social work has evolved. And what did they do? All these people who were compassionate those days, they went around to see who needs what. And they helped the poor, the sick, the children, the strangers, and also elders. To do all this, they needed money. You know that. Without money, you cannot do much. So they were dependent on charitable donations. Even these donations has gone into some evolution, has changed. First of all, we have the funding through charities and donations. We know this, we experience it. Most of the NGOs know what is this all about. Besides this, we have another one called bilateral funding, which evolved into a higher level. The countries coming together, making agreements among themselves mutually to help each other. These countries, especially the countries from the developed countries, helping those countries in the developing countries. So it's mutual. Some of you might know BMZ, USAID. These are very well known bilateral funding systems. Since some of the issues of development is not limited to one country, is rather global, there were global institutions were started. They were called multilateral organizations or international organizations. They developed also a funding system. So we have United Nations. That's very common. Almost everyone knows this. Of late, recently, you might have read in the newspapers that World Food Program of United Nations has received Nobel Prize. That's great. So we have three lines of funding. One, charities, donations, bilateral funding, multilateral funding. Of course, these funding systems and mechanisms are constantly evolving. There are always new systems coming in, a lot of experiments are being done. So it is evolving, and it has evolved to this at this stage. And then we face a crisis. Many people have lost their jobs. Companies have gone bankrupt. As a result, people have less money, companies have less income, and governments have less income. When the governments have less income, they start budget cuts. For example, in the case of European Union, we see that they have planned to cut 20 billion euro for the international aid for the coming years. I just checked today that there are at least, to be sure, 9 zeros after a billion. And this is a lot of money for Europe, and it is certainly a large amount for developing countries. This is just one example. There are many other countries having planned this or going to implement this budget cut. Besides this, directly, nonprofits are also impacted. First, you see, this study shows that 83% have a reduction in revenue in their income. And you see, as a result, they could not do all that they want to do. They have to cut down on their activities, their projects. They have to cut down on the staff. How painful that is for the staff and for the management to do this. Besides that, we also realized that NGOs have received less income from the individual giving and the private people. One exception here, very strange, is some of the NGOs were even willing to go for loans. They want to take a loan to run their NGO. So the great impact on the nonprofits. You might know also from experience, those who are running NGOs personally, that this is real. This is a challenging time. In this challenging time, what should the NGOs do? This is a question I'm sure you are also asking there at this side to see how to run your NGO. The NGO are connected to. So we have around 3 options. One, you can say give up. Second, wait and see what happens. Third, take action to see what we can do for the future. One common denominator here is the risk. Some avoid risk. Those who give up say, I don't want to take any risk whatsoever. Some others might say, I will take some risk, of course, but not too many. The risks that I have taken is okay, but I'm not going to take any more new ones. So being averse, reluctant to taking risk. Thirdly, you also have people who take risk, proactively take risk, not afraid of taking risk. Whether you take risk and what level of risk you take, like for example, low, middle, or high level of risk, it will all depend on what one believes in. One's beliefs system will affect and influence this risk-taking attitude and the level of risk that one takes. Okay, now let's look at what type of risks that we are talking about. Many would have experienced that some of the NGOs have to restructure their whole thing because certain departments not functioning anymore or not required anymore after this COVID incident. And also to see about your staff, your management, how to run that. And some of you may have to do some revisiting operations. What type of projects we have and what type of programs shall we continue to do and which one will we drop. These are very serious decisions that one has to take, certainly in the NGO context. And certainly financial issues. COVID has shown that this is a very, very critical and finance, the strategies that we had till now may not work during the COVID crisis. When it comes to financial strategy, we have to see how the NGOs can continue to function, especially how to make the NGOs sustainable. Go to that, we have those people who have attended my other workshops will be familiar with this framework, the pyramid frame. We have 4 strategies to make the NGO financially sustainable. But today we'll just focus on one, how the NGOs can have and generate their own income. One way to go is to make investments. I have seen this in the past, very simple projects I had during my career, that people had been building schools or offices. In the offices, they always foresaw some extra space with the intention, when the time comes, to rent it out, rental office space, to have their own income. What is special about this? This is done with the permission, in collaboration with the donor. Some of the donors have seen the value in this and they have supported them. And in this crisis time, at least some income they continue to have to be able to run their NGO. I've seen in some villages in India and also in Africa that they always had some type of what do we call multifunctional auditorium halls. Most of it is used during the day for running a school for the people, the children in the neighborhood. But in the weekend and on festivities, that was rented out for marriages, events, receptions. And especially the income that they had was just sufficient to run their school. So this also was in agreement with the donor. So the donor invested just once, and the local NGO could continue whatever they want to do from then onwards. But of course, there are many more to look at. For example, some of the NGOs have land and they can do something about it. And some of them have buildings, they can optimize the use of buildings, possibility. But if your NGO is rather sophisticated or working in the financial services, they could also invest in stocks and bonds. It's a possibility. And some of you may be running a vocational training center, and you could use some of these centers and add on, have a production center. So those centers can produce and make a living, make an income for the school. These are possibilities. And we can go on for 101 possibilities of investment. But the issue here is, when it comes to investments, there are a lot of views, different views on investments. Some people say, when you say we need to invest, they say, no way. Because they believe that there is God, I trust in God, and I will be taken care of. Investment, from my part, is a kind of an insult to what I believe in. Some others believe that there are always good people and I do good work, so good people will always give, so I can survive and things will somehow work out like in the past. So that's one belief system which makes them do and make this choice not to invest. Besides that, we have another group of people who say, yes, we will invest, but not that which is not in agreement with what we believe. We believe in certain things, so we want to remain in that and will not go against it. We had an experience of working with an NGO wanting to have their own income, have a reserve in time for the times of crisis. And they had a huge agricultural land. So we made a proposal for two options. Either you develop your agricultural field for agricultural products, and or can also go in for livestock. But obviously, we also mentioned the livestock will be profitable and more profitable than agriculture in the region. After a long discussion with the board, finally they decided to go for agriculture. And they explicitly said agriculture tallies, goes in line with what we believe in. We don't believe in meat industry, though we know that that will bring us more profit. So the issue here is not about what choice they made, but the question is whether to invest or not to invest is basically dependent on their belief system. Because what they believe in, they said, yes, we will invest, or they said, no, we don't believe in. And the type of investment is also influenced, I see, that is influenced by their belief system. So if you ask that question for the social sector, if our beliefs and belief systems influence social sector and its financial decision, the answer is certainly it does. It will certainly will do in the future.
So it looks like corporates are not the only ones that have belief systems that really make them decide which way to go, right or the left road. But it's also there in the social sector. Now that we've seen examples, what's more important is where I am. I am, as Joachim said, social work has evolved. You have MSW, PhDs, you're practicing professionals. So the question is, how do my belief system affect my work, my performance, the organization that I'm leading? For that, let me introduce you to one beautiful young lady. Highly educated, well qualified, comes from a simple family. Now, she had a lovely job offer, a very lucrative job offer. Only catch is, the job is in a foreign country, a country where they know nobody, have no friends. It's going to be everything new. And what do you think the family and friends would say? No. You don't go to a foreign country like that. We don't know anyone over there. What if something happens? There's nobody to help you, nobody to save you. So everybody prefers to be in what we call the comfort zone. Why? I'm in control here. If something happens, I know who to go to. I know how to work it out. But I don't want, if I'm somewhere totally out of reach, then I really don't know what would happen. Now, take COVID, for example, people are stranded. People couldn't get back to their homes with all the lockdowns. And yes, that is indeed quite a struggle. Yeah. Now, if you can cross the comfort zone, you come to, there is a fear zone that surrounds the comfort zone. So that basically means if you want to step out of the comfort zone, you should be brave enough to face the fear zone. If you have to take like an example, think of a huge forest, and there is a small tiny house is where we are living in. Now, in this house, I feel safe. I'm okay. I'm comfortable. I'm warm, or I'm cool enough, depending which country you are and where you are. And it's dark night. Unfortunately, somebody needs a medical help. Now, if I can only cross that black forest, that dark forest, which has so many things, maybe lions, tigers, all roaming in, if I can just get to the road, I can get help. But I'm afraid of stepping out. I find excuses. We say, look, let's wait till morning. Something will work out. So the hesitancy to step out of your house, but if you can manage to step out of that place, that's when you come to what we call the learning zone. So you have overcome your fears, you've overcome the barriers that make you wonder whether this is the way to go. And then if you can do that, you can learn from others, learn from how others have survived, what strategies are they using. And once you apply those to the goals you have in mind, that is when you grow. That's when you evolve. And if you manage to cross from your comfort zone, stretch out, and manage to reach all the way to the growth zone, then you have no boundaries because the world is at your feet. You can do anything, anytime. It could be middle of the night that there's somebody needs help, but you're not afraid to cross the fear zone, go out and ask help or get done. Now, the same, you think of that in terms of NGO. Is it something that will, keep me where I am because I don't want to, go out? I'm afraid. I have no funds because liquidity crisis is something that's a huge problem many are facing. How many people have been laid off? Do you think the management is very happy to lay off people? They also struggle because their works cannot be done. And what do I do? So in this crisis, how do I survive? As NGOs, we are always used to getting funds. So in the pyramid, if you remember, most will start with donor diversification. We are talking, okay, one thing I learned is not to have many donors, not a single donor, but to have many donors. But now we are encouraged to think of own income. And sometimes our beliefs can limit us. What do we mean by that? Now, as Safe Foundation, we also work with a number of NGOs, and our focus always has been to encourage them to have financially sustainable projects. For example, projects that can generate its income or find a way that you can continue even after your funding stops. So in that cases, when we talk, okay, what about having own income or investments? Because that's really the key word we want to highlight here, investment. When it comes to investments, it's very common that we have heard this that says social work is charity. Social work comes from my heart. That's what I believe in and believe in doing good. Others also, there are good people and they will help. So there is a certain reluctance to step out of the comfort zone and go into the go into the learning zone and grow further. I'm not quite sure, but somewhere out there, I have people drawing on the screen. It looks like the ghost. But I don't know, someone has a whiteboard on, but never mind. So the question here is, now we talked about investment. In the corporate, for example, investments, it's like money we save for the future. As individuals, we do. You have an income, you try to set aside something for a rainy day, right? Okay, some of us spend everything as well, but most of us talk about saving. So why are we not able to apply the same principle to our organization? Yeah. So when it comes to corporates, they also need investments to save them in the future. Classic example. British Airways. Now, you know, no flights. There was a time of lockdown. All flights were grounded. All airlines went through huge crisis, financial crisis. And British Airways was, of course, one of them. The interesting part was they, over a period of time, as part of their investment strategy, had acquired a lot of paintings. And they sold a number of their paintings to raise funds to pay for their operations till the world can come back to normal. So you see, you use your investment to raise funds to survive a difficult time. So in the corporate world, when it comes to investment, the decision all you have to make is, what is my investment strategy? Now, British Airways, it was in the newspaper as well, they were describing their investment strategy was about buy paintings of upcoming artists because they will be valued much, much higher. In fact, they made huge profits in their the sale of the artworks. But when it comes to NGO sector, the question is not what is investment strategy we should use. The question actually begins even one step earlier, whether I should invest or not. And because in social sector, we still believe it's the charity, it is the compassion. Yeah, it's not the same as doing business. The development work is not the same as doing business. It's true. But there is no harm in bringing a little of that mastery into this work, which is so full of mystery. As Father Joe Arimpur always says, the integration of mastery and mystery. Now are the challenging times, where we need to rethink our approach. And therefore, that brings us to the question, so my beliefs, my personal beliefs, because I could be leading the organization, or I could be part of the organization that would influence those who lead. It could be at any level. So my beliefs, do they limit me? Or, as the Red Bull ad would say, gives me wings to fly over that fear zone, to go beyond, and to look at more creative ways of continuing the development work that we have started. You know, can we become the Zooms of tomorrow? Or are we going to be the Skypes that nobody will probably remember in another 20, 30 years? So what steps we need to take? My beliefs can neither be right nor wrong. It's very personal to everyone. So there is no one way of doing it. This is something very contextual. It's in your environment. And you need to say how that can figure out. But the awareness is the beginning to say, because most of the beliefs, they either consciously influence you, or most of the time you're not even aware, but subconsciously. Like Joki mentioned, the NGO actually preferred to do agriculture products because somehow they were not very keen as non-vegetarians. They didn't want to promote it. It was against their belief. It was difficult. Of course, it may be more profitable, but I'm not comfortable with it. That's okay. There's not that this is the way one has to do. So our objective here in the webinar was actually it's more awareness raising. I mean, we don't normally link beliefs to financial systems, but you'll be surprised at the number of research that is done in the corporate world. I think it'll be great if somebody in the development sector also takes up with a scientific approach and says, look, we see whether there is or not. And how can that be changed or adapted so that NGOs find a way out? It is at the end of the day, again, survival of the fittest. But the nice thing in the social sector, which I really am fond of, is a togetherness. People are there to help each other. The key word is help. But now there's no harm in actually bringing in a little more system, a little more strategy, and to say, how can we make sure we still go on? Now at Safe Foundation, we do specialize with this. We work with organizations, both at organizational level sustainability and also at the project level. So write to us at Become Financially Sustainable, BFS at safefoundation.org. Stay in touch with us. Tell us your experience, your challenges. If you think of some questions that come later up from the webinar that struck you later, but not necessarily now, feel free to write to us and we'll be happy to take it up and work with you together in future. So that's from both of us here. And Stan, I now hand it over to you.
Yeah, you could leave this slide for a while
Okay.
so that people can probably write down any questions. And anyone has a question to ask, please unmute yourself and you can ask the question. Okay, so I was just going through Nina, about the solutions that you are given. Actually, as a normal human being, I was waiting for funds to be announced by you. But however, I'm surprised you have not announced any funds to be given to me. Yeah, but you've given me some ideas, yes, on renting, investment, and also on moving out of the comfort zone. Can you share some examples of some NGOs who have tried it and have succeeded?
Let's take YouTube. This is something we were very impressed with, Joachim and I. Let's take YouTube, for example. Now, there was a time that in YouTube as a channel, people post videos and they can generate income. But of course, you need to have so many views, etc. Number of times when we interact with NGOs, we recommend, okay, why don't you try the YouTube channel, promote your works and things. Yeah, but they will not necessarily get all that view. This is what we commonly hear. Now, this is about getting out of the comfort zone. And we came across one YouTube channel. I think they have about more than 4 million subscribers or so. And it's not very technology kind of thing. It's a dear old gentleman from Andhra Pradesh. I think it's called Grandpa's Kitchen or something. And he just sits under a tree he tells you recipes, or the videos are just about 10 minutes or so, on how to make pakoras, or chili chicken or something. He does everything under the tree in a rural setting. And whatever he has cooked, at the end of the video, they also show how they use that food to actually share it with a lot of orphan children. So they go to an orphanage or something and they share. You know, the number of views that channel gets, it's amazing. And I have read of in different articles also, where the organization was able to raise so much of funds that they could do so much of good work. I believe last year the elderly gentleman passed away, but I'm a fan of that channel myself. Now, who would imagine, I know, that somebody in a remote village in Andhra Pradesh just sits under a tree, does a traditional cooking under that big fire, and would have such a viewership, and that they can actually generate funds. So it's just about being creative, finding that space, but that needs thinking. So it's not impossible. So I hope that answers your question, Stan.
Yeah. See, I think one of the things that you said about many of us have believed God will provide or someone else will provide. What are the steps I need to take personally in terms of going out of my own comfort zone and do some action? What are the steps? You suggested 2, 3. Anything more that you suggest personally I need to do?
Yeah, it largely depends on the type of intervention. So whether it's medical, educational, community-based. So it also varies what kind of intervention. Of course, there are a lot more platforms available now. Crowdfunding is becoming very popular, but at the same time, please be aware there's a lot of fraud with crowdfunding. So that's not something we would say blindly, this is it that you have to do. Don't give up on faith. There are good people, and sometimes good things will happen. But here it's very important that others know of the work. This COVID times, sometimes when we have messaged someone and we don't get a reply, honestly, the first fear in the heart is we don't know if COVID took them. So it could be that your benefactors, existing benefactors, are struggling, suffering, or are no more, God forbid. So let others also know of the work you do. Most often when others know and they are convinced of it, they will come to you. Today you have the media, the social media platform, you have different forums in which, but let people know. When people know, they see it, they can connect to it. Now this can be online, in person, mail, phone, anything. That's when you widen your network. Network is a key here. And remember, doing good is not just you. When you give others a chance to be part of the good you do, you increase the level of social engagement. And I think that's very evident with COVID, how many people join hands to help the others, especially in India when the lockdown happened like that. There was no warning, no notice. So there are still good people, but they need to know you exist, that you are there. So that would be the different ways that you can promote yourself, that people know your work.
I'm a small organization, a small NGO. I'm running on with a small staff. How do I manage? I don't have access to these, letting people know who I am, etc. I don't have access. Any thoughts on that?
Look at the community around you, because at the end of the world, help is not going to be from 10,000 miles away. People near you, around you. And it has happened very often in our experience as well, where we wanted to start a project. We said, okay, do you know who are the other people doing the similar kind of work in that area? They were not aware. They knew few, but in fact, there were many more who have done much more work. So that awareness of the neighborhood is something important. And when you look around, you will find opportunities to build synergy. But I don't know if Joachim would also like to add something on that.
Yeah, it all depends on the type of work you do and the location where you are. Like Nina said, depends on who else is doing the same. So you can make a network of people who do the same or similar type, and in what way you can enlarge that network. It is not linked. See, funding is not always limited to foreign funds, government funds, and local. So it can come from strange places. So now we are also thinking of what we call social impact funding. That is, investments are taking place. New mechanisms are coming up, depending on what type of work you do. So it is possible to work out. I think it's more quite specific to the case.
Yeah. Also, we believe that in rural setting, it's difficult to raise. It's not correct. They say, okay, if my NGO is in the city, I will get more money, but that's not true. You can also have a lot more when you're in the rural setting, provided people know you're doing the work and they travel, they come. So there are a lot of people from the cities who are also moving out to the rural areas to give help. So.
Okay, thank you. Floor is open to the house. Anyone would like to ask a question or even add value to the whole webinar in terms of what do you suggest in terms of solutions? How much our belief systems actually block our thinking ahead of time? Anyone?
Yes, sir. I have a question.
Yeah.
Can I ask?
Yes, please.
Myself, Sanjay Kumar. I used to run an NGO which has collapsed due to fund issue. And the question is, like ma'am was saying, you can rent, you can things with your property and all those things. You raised this issue that if I'm a small NGO working in a village, then how am I going to do that?
Yeah.
And in that case, you need to have make your presence felt. But can you think of those NGOs at grassroots level who don't have even a full-time person who can do their audit work, who can do some social media networking for them, who can upload some videos on YouTube. So if they don't have such kind of basic people with them in their NGO in rural areas, getting such people is difficult.
Yes.
So how can those NGOs make their presence felt in to the world?
Yeah, absolutely. Good point. Yes,
yeah. Sanjay, first of all, I'm really sorry to hear that problems that you went through. It's really unfortunate. I hope you will find a way out finally. Now here, when we are always looking to the world. We sometimes, when we have internet and we look at our computer and we think, okay, from here the world opens up, like all the science fiction movies. It's more around you, people around you. We know of a number of NGOs that work in rural settings, which we discovered only because Joachim and I travel extensively. They are not evident to people outside. And we have asked them, okay, so why don't you, let people know? Nobody knows that you guys are doing this work here, wonderful work here. Of course, they survive. They're not the kind of NGOs that at grassroots level, you're not looking at big NGOs that have fancy cars and fancy jobs and fancy salaries. No, we're talking about people working with people, simple lives, simple settings. So there is no one answer to this. There is no one magic formula that will say, okay, do this and everybody will know about you. Look, even when it comes to webinar, Instagrams, Facebook, today there is an overkill. How many messages can you read in a day? So these technological platforms are not necessarily the only one. The work that you do is around you, but you will find NGO forums. And I think becoming part, as a small NGO, becoming part of a larger group builds a support system. And that is a support system you have to do. When you function as an individual NGO in one location, you're alone. But if you have a network of NGOs, it may be in the same sector, same field, same kind of work, or different. You could be complementing. One does health, one does education. When you come together, say if you take a village, then you have 3, 4 organizations that are working there. You come together, then you have much more voice. So when it comes to that village, people know, look, these group of people are working there. It's not one. So the approach we would recommend is about collaboration with other organizations, also the civic bodies. In many countries, especially in India, you have a lot of government schemes, a lot of possibilities, and there are a lot of people who have been assigned to promote it. So you really need to find these people and be in their radar. It really doesn't matter whether you know someone in London, US, or Japan. It's important that the person locally in charge who's dispersing the subsidies knows you. So here it's important to identify who your key stakeholder is. Who should know you? And that is a strategy you have to revisit. That's why when Joachim was talking about the strategies, yeah, this is important. When you revisit your financial strategy, you set your target. When you revisit your operational strategy, you set your target. How am I going to operate? Who should know me for what? And when that message is clear, that could make some difference.
Ma'am,
So,
thank you so much for the reply. But just one more thing I'd like to ask. Like you say that your presence will be made felt around, not 10,000 miles away. But the thing is, if I'm working in a community which needs transformation, which needs change, will my effort be, will my work be recognized in that community? Do they have that mindset to understand me that what where this will lead the community to in next few years? Do you think this community has that sense?
Where are you located?
Ma'am, myself in a remote state of India, Jharkhand. It's literacy level and all the tribal population and all those things that is outdated and they are lagging behind in developmental scale. So if I explain them that what I am doing is going to take them or uplift them, will they understand? Do you think that they will think that yes, this is what I need?
See, in Jharkhand, there are a lot of focus in those areas because there are a lot of not only national NGOs, but a lot of international NGOs that work in that region of Jharkhand. We ourselves have been there to many of the remote areas. We visited many villages and we have seen the kind of fabulous work people are doing. So if you ask me across India, and I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but especially European Union and some of the major international NGOs, when they advertise funds for India, they have a star mark and they say only limited to, and they have certain regions, and Jharkhand is one of them. So there is like even Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation would be focusing a lot more in the Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand area. So there is a huge international focus as well in that area. So I find it a little hard to believe that people are not fully reached out. I'm sure there are pockets because it's a huge area. So, but I'm sure there are pockets that are still not touched. But you must know that you have a greater chance that say anybody even from Northeast applying or South India or Western India applying, you have a greater chance of getting funding for these regions.
thanks, Tina. I think we're running out of time. The point, I think, the whole purpose that I took the initiative to organize this is to bring about awareness. In 1 hour, I don't think we can answer all questions. Yeah. But I think just an awareness that the key to growth lies within us and with us. And somewhere, because of this problem, we need to somewhere sidestep and see how we can look at it differently, looking at our own belief systems and extend ourselves some areas which we have never tried before. Yeah, so it's just a bringing awareness. In 1 hour, I don't think we can do magic, but I'm sure all of us are aware that there is so much of belief system we have about not extending ourselves to many other opportunities in life. So can we do that? Yeah. With this, I would like to invite Dr. Anto, Director of Northeastern Institute of Social Science. Yes.
This is Andrew from Sacred Hearts.
Yes.
Just a word of thanks.
Yes, Doctor. Yes,
for organizing this, and to both Joachim and Nina for really very enriching and expertized way of bringing about the knowledge to our own children here, and most of them are participating. And we are very grateful to you for collaborating with us in undertaking this type of very innovative and creative themes for building the social work community to reach out to the most needy and poor.
Thank you, Doctor.
Thanks.
Dr. Anto,
To you, Dan.
yes. Dr. Anto, would you like to summarize?
Yeah, I can just express the word of thanks. Thank you, Sir Stan Lobo, for organizing such a beautiful seminar, international webinar on sustainable NGOs. Well, I have a very noble task to complete today, just to propose word of thanks and say thank you to the organizing institutions and the resource persons. Alvin Toffler once said, the modern illiterate people are people who are not able to read and write, but people who are not able to learn, relearn, and unlearn. Looking at the great work of Ma'am Nina George and Joachim Luduswamy, one thing is very clear: social work is the heart of you, and it is very evident when you shared how to manage the NGOs during this poignant pandemic situation of COVID-19. A few points which flagged, you pitched and tried to flag off were, yes, NGOs are compelled to reform and redesign the projects. And it need to be, we need to strengthen our network, and we need to go for digitalization, and much more, we need to localize our NGOs in order to survive. Well, during this COVID-19, this poignant situation, if most of the places government has done, but many places government was struggling, but NGOs did marvelous work. And I should say, NGOs have to keep up this, and we should never stumble lack of fund. And we have a great responsibility to reach out to thousands and lakhs of people in India in the rural setting. And I'm sure through this network, through this enhanced digitalization and localization perspective, we may able to survive this precarious situation that we are in. Well, I also would like to thank the organization who are part of it, Indian Institute of Spirituality for Social Work and Helping. It is headed by Sir Stan Lobo. The brainchild of today's international seminar on sustainable NGOs was his plan, and it could reach its objective and create awareness and try to conscientize the importance of belief system is successfully achieved, I should say. And we also thank Madras School of Social Work, Sacred Heart College, Tirupattur. I think many are alumni of Sacred Heart College, Tirupattur. I could feel today. And Father Andrew, when he came forward, I understood you are also part of this great alumni of Sacred Heart College, Tirupattur. And I am also one among you. Then I also thank the university, MRS University, Baroda, and the Northeast Institute of Social Science and Research, that is in Nagaland. Thank you once again. And
thank you.
It was well organized. Sir Lobo, we look forward to have you to organize many seminar. And Ma'am Nina, Sir Joachim, most welcome to Northeast Indian part of Northeast India, and we look forward to have you in many more seminars the days to come. Well done. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Dr. Thanks a lot. So we have the next webinar on spirituality in social work by Dr. Bhagwan. It is going to be, he's from South Africa.
Okay.
in the month of third week of November. That is going to be very interesting. Thank you, Nina. Thank you, Joachim, Anto, Andrew, Satya, and Dr. Jagdish. Thank you very much. God
Thank you
bless
so
you.
much. God
Thank
bless.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Good night.
Thank you. Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, sir.
And you will find a feedback form on your email in next 10 minutes. You can fill it and send it, and accordingly the certificate will be given. Thank you.